Hi there, I'm Loren, and my family didn't just forget me. They rewrote their future without me in it. They left my name off the will, off the wedding list, off the map entirely, even after I raised my sister like a second mother and paid her way through law school. But what hurt most wasn't what they took. It was realizing how easily they planned life without me. Why would a family do that to someone who gave up everything for them? Before we dive into my story, tell me, have you ever been pushed out of something you helped build? Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? What time is it where you are, and where are you watching from? Drop a comment. I'd love to know. The wrench was still warm from the last repair job when I slid it into my toolbox. Nashville's November chill bit at the edges of the sky, golden light fading fast. I sat in my truck, boots scuffed with old soot, hands aching but steady. That's when the message came. Tessa had sent a screenshot. Thought this might have been a mistake? The title, Family Thanksgiving 2023. Beneath it, names, aunts, uncles, cousins, my mother, Kendall, her fiancé's family, everyone except me. I stared at it, not breathing. Just the slight buzz of the truck radio humming under my ribs. I read it again, then again. Still no Loren. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just stared, long enough for the condensation on the windshield to bead and run like little escapes. Something in me sank, not in rage, but in recognition. This wasn't new. It was just bolder this time. I scrolled back to last year's photos. Kendall laughing, fork in hand, my cornbread stuffing in the center of the table, my hands invisible, my name unspoken. I tapped Marla's number. She answered too quickly. Loren, hi, sweetie. You busy? I got a screenshot, I said flatly. A pause. Then, soft and practiced. Oh, that. Kendall wanted a more curated vibe this year. Her fiancé's parents are very refined. You get it, right? What does that mean? My voice didn't rise. It shrank. She's nervous. First impressions matter. We didn't want you to feel out of place. You work so much. It's nothing personal. Of course, it's never personal when they erase you, only when they need you. Marla chuckled lightly. You understand, don't you? My throat clenched. I tasted metal, like a penny left too long in the mouth. Sure, that's my girl, she said, then hung up like it was a grocery call. I sat still, phone resting on my thigh. The cold started to bite through the fabric. The silence stretched like smoke around me, slow and suffocating. 16 years ago, I stayed home from prom to patch up a leaking ceiling so Kendall wouldn't come back to mold. I worked nights, paid the heating bills, gave up scholarships, drove her to campus orientation while our mother sipped mimosas in Florida. I made Kendall, and now she was polishing her narrative without me in the frame. I opened the banking app. My thumb hovered over the recurring tuition payment set for next semester. Her last year. Not yet, but almost. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need a scene. They'd written me out of their perfect picture. Let's see what happens when the table starts shaking.
My phone buzzed just as I poured the last of the coffee into a chipped mug. The sun had long dipped behind the skyline, casting the kitchen in shades of burnt gold and silent blue. I wiped my hand on my jeans and checked the screen. Hey sis, hope you're doing good. Quick favor, tuition's tight again. Think you could help me out just one last time? No greeting, no acknowledgement. Just a bubble of bright cheer wrapped around another ask. Like I was a vending machine. Press a button, get another miracle. I didn't respond. I just stared. A thrum behind my eyes started to build. Dull at first, then sharper. Not rage, not yet. Just something quieter, like tired bones after too many winters. 16 years ago, I wired my first $10,000 so Kendall could walk onto campus with a new backpack and zero worries. She didn't know I sold the truck that took me to work just to scrape it together. Second semester came. I maxed out another card. Third semester, I picked up weekend shifts, crawling through dusty HVAC systems while she posted latte art and library selfies. I used to tell myself it was worth it, that someday she'd look back and thank me. She never did. I thumbed through old emails, tuition notices, unpaid electric bills, my own school rejections. One in particular stuck out. A message from a friend I'd ignored for a trip I couldn't afford. Maybe next time, I'd told her. There never was a next time. I called Tessa. She picked up fast. "I'm guessing you saw the text," I said. A breath. Then, "Yeah, and I need to tell you something." I braced myself. "Your mom called me." My chest tightened. She asked me to stay out of it, said I was fanning flames, said this was Kendall's year and everyone needs to fall in line. I closed my eyes. Tessa's voice wavered. "I didn't agree, Loren, but I don't want to make things worse for you." The weight shifted. Not just rejection now, something worse. Silence, even from the ones who used to stand beside me. "I get it," I whispered. "They always make it about keeping peace, as long as it's not their peace being disturbed." I hung up before my voice cracked. Later, I sat in the dark with the blue glow of my banking app lighting up my face. The tuition auto payment pulsed like a quiet threat. I didn't cancel it, but I erased the monthly reminder, deleted the calendar alert, took back my silence, one click at a time. I didn't text Kendall. I didn't owe her that. Let them wonder. Let them scramble. Let's see who they call when the world doesn't fall into place. The photo came in a text from Jordan, a mutual friend who never knew when to stay out of the line of fire. A golden sunset. Waves curling against a private beach. Kendall in a white bikini, glass in hand, Grant grinning beside her like he'd just won the lottery. "Thought you said she was broke?" Jordan's message was short. The timestamp on the post was not. 2 days ago. 2 days after she'd asked me for tuition help, one last time. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Then I looked down at my own hands, calloused, still smudged with engine oil from a double shift at the shop. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead like it was mocking me. The air in the garage turned still. The half-eaten sandwich on the workbench went cold. Something snapped, not loud, not dramatic, just a clean break inside my chest where trust used to live. I didn't even text her. I called Marla. She answered like nothing had happened. "Sweetheart, what's going on?" "You knew." My voice was calm, too calm. A pause. Then, maybe it wasn't the best timing, but that trip was important. It's their future we're talking about. My money paid for the champagne on her balcony? Her sigh came like smoke through the receiver. "You've always been so dramatic, Loren. Kendall's building something, a network, that resort, those people, can open doors for her." "I was the door," I said, breath trembling. "I carried her through every hallway she never earned. She deserves to shine," she snapped. "You've had your time." The line didn't go dead. I did. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Tessa. Her voice was tight, but I heard the shake underneath it. "I got a message. I wasn't supposed to." Silence stretched. Then she read it out loud. "As long as Loren doesn't show up, we're fine," she whispered. "It was meant for Kendall, I think. From your mom." I didn't move. The rage didn't boil. It settled, dense and quiet, the way heavy snow buries everything you thought you recognized. "All this time," I murmured. They weren't keeping peace. They were planning an erasure. I didn't need proof. I had a lifetime of it. Gifts unopened, voicemails ignored, a seat left empty year after year while Kendall held center stage. I opened my laptop, drafted an email. Subject line, "Transfer canceled." My fingers hovered over the keys. Not yet. I saved it. Then I whispered into the silence that stretched like smoke. "Let's see what happens when ghosts start talking back." The restaurant hummed with curated cheer, chatter, clinks, the scent of over-garnished hors d'oeuvres. I'd shown up because Tessa asked, and I didn't want to explain why I'd refused. Again. Grant was holding court at the head of the table, wine swirling in his glass like it was born for his palm. His eyes scanned the room, landed on me, and curled into a grin that didn't reach the corners. "So, who runs that HVAC company?" he asked, tilting his head, voice soaked in innocence. "You or your boyfriend?" It wasn't a question. It was a declaration about where he thought women belonged. I didn't blink. "Just me," I said, slow and sharp. He smiled wider, turned back to his conversation. And just like that, I was dismissed. I held my breath until it hurt. Then I exhaled into the hum of small talk that no longer sounded human. Afterward, in a quiet corner near the bar, Tessa handed me her phone. "Don't shoot the messenger." I stared at the screen. Wedding paperwork, legal documentation, under bride's legal name, not a trace of DeVault, just Kendall Jeanette. She'd cut us out, right there in black and white, like we were a typo. I bit the inside of my cheek until copper flooded my tongue. "She didn't even flinch," Tessa whispered. "She didn't have to," I murmured. 16 years ago, I signed away the last of my college savings so Kendall could enroll freshman year. She actually promised, she'd never forget what I'd done for her. Now, she'd rewritten the book, and I wasn't even a footnote. We left the restaurant. I followed her to the reception venue mock-up down the block. She hesitated at the entrance. I didn't. The seating chart stretched across a velvet board, glossy and gold-trimmed. I scanned it once, twice. No L. DeVault. Kendall's old dorm mates? Front and center. Grant's high school coach? Near the altar. Marla? Wedged between the wedding planner and someone labeled Maid of Honors +1. My name didn't slip through the cracks. It was shoved. I stepped back. The air was too warm, the lights too soft. I felt like I was watching my own funeral. Chic, candle-lit, curated for Instagram. "They didn't forget," I said, voice dry. "They removed me." I didn't cry. I left. Back in the car, the name tag from dinner still clung to my coat. I ripped it off and let it fall onto the passenger seat like ash from a burned letter. Then I whispered to the windshield, to the night, to no one at all. Let's make it easy for them. Let's show them what it looks like when I'm really gone. The subject line hit harder than any scream ever could. Revision of final will. Marla Jeanette. I opened the email with a sense of vague dread, like peeking behind a curtain you already know hides something rotten. My name wasn't there, not once. Kendall was the sole beneficiary. House, savings, bonds, everything. I called the law office. The woman on the line spoke with all the warmth of a dial tone. It was recently amended per instruction. Mrs. Jeanette requested the update herself. I thanked her. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because silence had nowhere else to go. It twisted inside me, exploded into something sharp and breathless. It was the kind of laugh that cracked bone. The rehearsal dinner was lit like a wedding commercial. Chandeliers dangled above linen-covered tables. Everything was polished, posed, curated to the last detail. I walked in like I belonged, and watched as they acted like I didn't. Kendall floated across the room, veil in hand, holding court like Nashville royalty. She smiled, thanked guests, toasted Grant. Then she raised her glass and said, "I want to thank my mother for every sacrifice she made to get me here. Applause, laughter, camera flashes, nothing for me." I stood up, no script, just truth. "Congratulations, Kendall," I said, lifting my glass but not drinking. "I hope the world you're building on fiction holds up." Forks froze midair. Conversations died mid-sentence. "I paid for your entire education. Every tuition check, every book, every housing deposit. Law school? That was me. Your future was built on my past, my sweat, my sacrifices. And now, you've written me out like a bad line in your biography." A hush so thick it hurt. I saw Marla's face contort, ready to jump in. I cut her off without looking. "You erased me. So here I am, returning the favor, just making sure the record stays public." I set my glass down. Didn't drink, didn't cry. Just walked out. Outside, the wind bit at my skin. My heart raced not from regret, but from relief. It was done. Finally. I looked up at the moonlit clouds and whispered, "Let's see if they can afford the fallout." The sun hadn't fully risen when my phone lit up beside the bed. I reached for it with a hand that already knew better. The message was short. "Thank you for telling the truth last night. I didn't know. Grant." I stared at the screen, jaw locked. Not because I was surprised, but because it shouldn't have mattered. And still, it did. I typed back, "I didn't say it for you." But I couldn't lie to myself. Somewhere deep in the scar tissue, I wanted him to hear it. To know it. Not because I needed saving, but because truth deserves an audience. By noon, it wasn't a rumor. It was real. Grant had canceled the wedding. Tessa's voice cracked over the phone. He left, just walked out. Told Kendall he couldn't marry into a lie. I didn't react the way people expected. No cheers, no relief. I just sat on my porch, coffee gone cold in my hand, watching the wind tug the last of the leaves from the maple tree out front. Orange turned to brown. Then nothing. I whispered, "Now she knows what loss tastes like." And then came the envelope. Thick, yellow, heavy in the way truth sometimes is, a formal complaint. Kendall was suing me for defamation, emotional harm, and intentional sabotage. I didn't flinch, but when I saw Marla's name listed as a supporting witness, something inside me slid sideways. It wasn't just betrayal, it was strategy. They weren't trying to hurt me, they were trying to erase me with precision. I called my lawyer, calmly, almost detached. "They're trying to bury me now," I said. She didn't hesitate. "Then we don't play defense. We build the record. Every transfer, every invoice, every memory with a timestamp." I opened my laptop. The glow from the screen hit my face like a spotlight on a stage I never wanted to be on. My inbox was a minefield of receipts and silence. Tuition confirmation emails, bank notifications, birthday messages unanswered. Each click was a stitch sewing my existence back into the timeline they tried to cut me out of. This time, I wasn't speaking for them. This time, I wasn't trying to be seen. I was making sure I'd never be erased again. The message still sat in my phone's archive like a bruise that hadn't faded. "As long as Loren doesn't show up, we're fine." My mother's voice, transcribed in pixels, reeked of composure and cruelty. I read it again. One last time. It didn't sting the way it used to. It lit a fuse. They said it like I was a disruption, something to be contained. But really, I was just the reminder they never wanted, of debt, of sacrifice, of truths that wouldn't stay buried. I deleted the message, not to forget, but to make space. The next morning, I walked into the courthouse. The air was dry, fluorescent. The clerk glanced up, her tone clipped but not unkind. "You're sure you want to update the legal business name to your own?" "Yes," I said. "I'm not hiding behind anything anymore." 15 years of sweat and silence, tucked behind a generic LLC name. Kendall got the applause. I got the invoices. Not anymore. I signed the forms with a pen that didn't shake. 16 years ago. I worked my first HVAC call in boots too big, hands cut by copper edges. Kendall had texted me a photo that day, her freshman dorm, neatly decorated, captioned "finally free." She never knew the crawl space I'd been crawling through to buy that freedom. I walked out of the courthouse holding a certificate that bore my name, no longer as a footnote, but a headline. The winter wind hit me as I stepped outside. I didn't flinch. By noon, the rebrand was official. Loren HVAC, clean, unapologetic. I uploaded a short video from my workshop. "To the community that trusted me when no one else did," I began. "Thank you. From now on, the name on your bill, on your thermostat, on your trust, will be mine. Built by hands that never asked for applause. No music, no fancy edit, just my voice, just truth." By evening, the views ticked past 5,000, then 10. Tessa texted, "You didn't just reclaim a name, you turned it into a banner." I smiled at the screen, then turned off the light. Minutes later, another email pinged through. Subject line: "Interview request. Reclaiming power after family fallout. I stared at it, jaw tight, then whispered, "So they do see me now." The knock came just after 9, sharp and familiar. I wiped my hands on a towel and opened the door to find Grant standing there, hair combed back, jacket clean, smile hesitant. "Hey," he said, voice softer than I remembered. "Place looks great." I didn't invite him in. He didn't ask. "I saw your rebrand, Loren HVAC. It's bold." He chuckled, eyes scanning the shop walls like he hadn't ignored their sweat-soaked paint job months ago. "Listen, I was wrong about a lot. About you. About what happened." I stayed quiet, just let him talk. He leaned slightly forward. "I've got access to state contracts now. You've got the skills, the team. We could build something big, together." He paused like he was expecting excitement. I nodded once. "Appreciate you stopping by." That was it. After he left, I sat at my old desk, the wood chipped from years of quiet frustration. I found one of my original business cards tucked beneath a drawer handle, DeVault Mechanical, black ink on cardstock I couldn't afford when I started. 16 years ago. I ran emergency repairs through Christmas Eve while Kendall flew to Aspen with Marla. They sent photos. I never replied. Back in the present, my assistant walked in holding her phone. "You're on the homepage of the city blog. That interview blew up. Clients are calling nonstop." I gave her a small smile, but my thoughts were elsewhere. Not about the buzz, not about Grant, but about how long I had stayed silent just to keep the peace in rooms that didn't want me. I opened my laptop, typed carefully, "Grant, thank you for your offer. I won't be accepting. This business wasn't built to circle back to people who only believed in me once I stopped needing them. This name isn't a handshake, it's a boundary. Loren." I hit send. Outside, the sun caught the edge of my new sign. Loren HVAC, founded, owned, built, no more initials, no more shared history, just me. A text came through from Tessa. "They're scrambling. Kendall's legal team just lost 2 of their top paralegals. She's drowning." I looked at the screen, then set it face down. Let them. The envelope was pale blue. Marla's handwriting, rigid and controlled, stared back at me like it always had, trying to soften the message with a shade, never with the words. I opened it over coffee, mid-sip, as the heater rattled behind me. "I see now that maybe I pushed you away harder than I meant to." No apology, no ownership, just a careful phrase, dipped in passive regret. But one line stuck. "I hope you find peace with or without us." I folded it once, then again, then tucked it in a drawer not meant for keepsakes, just things you don't need to revisit, but might someday use to remember why you walked. That wasn't the peace I was looking for. Later that week, I drove out to Hillshade Cemetery. Cold wind sliced across the open fields as I stood before the gray headstone bearing my father's name. His name. The one Kendall dropped. The one Marla buried in legal filings and wedding programs. "They used your name like scaffolding," I said quietly, "and tore it down once their tower stood." I reached into my coat pocket and placed a red wrench at the base of the stone. Glossy and small, more symbol than tool. "I kept it, Dad. I kept us." I walked back to the truck. The crunch of gravel underfoot was the only reply I needed. A week later, the open house brought bodies, voices, laughter. Tessa showed up first, balancing a tray of cookies and a crooked smile. "You know they're still lurking, right?" she said, nudging me. "Let them watch," I said, offering cider to a contractor I hadn't seen since summer. Kids tore through the place like it was a playground. A client hugged me tight, whispering thanks for fixing their heat during that cold snap in October. One man, probably in his 60s, leaned in close. "You really that sister? The one from all the threads online?" I wiped my hands on a towel and grinned. "I'm whoever keeps the lights on and the pipes warm." We toasted, not to revenge, not to loss, to endurance, to sweat, to standing when no one claps. As evening fell, I stood by the front window. Snow had started, delicate as breath on glass. The kind that doesn't stick, just reminds you winter's here and you're still standing. I whispered, Some wounds don't close, but they teach you where to stop bleeding. And for the first time in years, the silence didn't stretch like smoke. It settled.
Sometimes the loudest strength comes in quiet choices, the courage to walk away, to rebuild without applause, to say no without explanation. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that you don't need a stage to matter. You don't need permission to reclaim your worth. We spend so much time trying to be what others need, we forget we were enough from the beginning. If you've ever been erased, underestimated, or used, you're not alone. And you don't have to shout to be heard. Just stand. Keep building. Let the life you create echo louder than any lie they ever told. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose peace over proving yourself? What did that moment teach you? If this story touched you, drop a heart or comment one below. Tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to connect. And if this video found a place in your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story.